On December 18, 1944, three American destroyers are sinking beneath 100-foot waves in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. First, USS Hull goes down, with 202 sailors aboard, leaving only 62 alive. Then, USS Spence takes 317 men to the bottom, and just 23 escape. Minutes later, USS Monaghan claims 256 crew members with 6 survivors. In less than 1 hour, 790 American sailors are dead. But here's what doesn't make sense. Aircraft carriers in that exact same typhoon, riding those same monstrous waves, all survived. So what do these floating fortresses do differently when nature unleashes its fury at full speed? A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier stretches 1,092 feet from bow to stern, which is longer than the Eiffel Tower if you laid it on its side. The ship displaces enough water to fill 40 Olympic swimming pools and carries 5,000 crew members who live and work aboard this floating city. It races through the ocean at over 35 miles per hour when the mission demands it. Because when you're defending American interests or responding to a crisis, slowing down isn't an option, regardless of what Mother Nature throws at you. When that carrier hits a 60-foot wave at full speed, the impact generates the same force as a high-speed car crash, except this vessel weighs as much as a small city and carries enough firepower to level a country. Tons of green water cascade over the flight deck that sits 60 feet above the waterline, burying aircraft chained to the deck under seawater, while the entire bow section vanishes beneath the wave for several seconds before erupting back up and shedding thousands of gallons like a breaching whale. This isn't just theory. In January 1987, the USS Carl Vinson became one of the first modern carriers to operate in the Bering Sea during winter, where sailors watched F-14 Tomcats and A-6 Intruders land on a snow-covered, ice-slicked flight deck, while winds hit 50 knots and waves crashed over the bow with every impact. One pilot flying a supply aircraft called it the most extreme conditions he'd ever seen in his entire career. But the Carl Vinson needed parts and mail, so those sailors delivered. Because the mission doesn't stop for weather. But that wasn't the worst storm carriers have ever faced. The worst happened on December 18, 1944, when Admiral William Halsey's Third Fleet got caught in Typhoon Cobra, about 300 miles east of the Philippines, under apocalyptic conditions, with waves reaching heights that matched 10-story buildings, winds exceeding 100 knots, and visibility dropping to 0. 3 destroyers capsized completely, with the Hull losing 202 men, the Spence killing 317 sailors, and the Monaghan taking 256 crew members down. Yet, the aircraft carriers in that same typhoon all survived, despite some rolling past 45 degrees, which is almost halfway to capsizing, and that's the difference brilliant engineering makes. So what does it actually take to keep these ships alive when the ocean turns deadly? It starts on the bridge, where the officer of the deck makes constant adjustments to speed and heading through split-second decisions, where the wrong choice means you bury the bow or lose steering control. Down on the flight deck, conditions get exponentially worse. Crews work in the open, completely exposed to spray from towering waves, while guiding fighter jets weighing 40,000 pounds onto a moving pitching deck that's actively trying to kill everyone aboard. Landing signal officers stand on a small platform just feet from where aircraft slam down at 150 miles per hour, literally risking their lives every single time a plane approaches. When the carrier is racing through waves at 30 knots, the deck can pitch up and down 30 feet in seconds, giving pilots less than 3 seconds to adjust before they crash into the ocean or slam into the ship's superstructure. The reason carriers survive what kills other ships comes down to deliberate engineering, refined over decades. Modern carriers are built with their center of buoyancy higher than their center of gravity to create a powerful righting force, where the farther the ship tips, the stronger that force becomes. Physics actually works in the ship's favor, because once a carrier begins to roll, the design fights to pull it back upright. The hull is extremely wide and flat beneath the waterline, creating a stable platform that resists tipping. The newer Nimitz-class carriers also have bulbous bows that cut through waves more efficiently. But here's the catch. It's not just about surviving, it's about staying operational while surviving. Those two nuclear reactors that power everything can't simply be throttled down when the ocean turns violent, because slowing down suddenly could destabilize the reactor or cause loss of steering control during combat or crisis situations. Now, they're getting help from science. In 2016, MIT engineers developed an algorithm that can predict rogue waves 2 to 3 minutes before they fully develop, by analyzing surrounding wave patterns to spot clusters that might turn into monster waves. That warning time is enough to secure aircraft, warn the crew, and adjust heading, potentially saving dozens of lives. The system works because scientists finally figured out how rogue waves actually form, through waves traveling at different speeds that align at the same point in the ocean and stack together to form a much taller crest. Then, natural wave effects stretch that crest another 15 to 20% higher, creating a wave that's twice as tall as everything around it. All that brilliant engineering means nothing without the crews who operate these ships through 16-hour shifts in spaces that can hit 100 degrees while sleeping in bunks barely larger than coffins and working on a flight deck where one mistake means getting blown overboard by jet exhaust or crushed during normal operations. During heavy weather, everything gets exponentially harder. Medical teams treat injuries while being thrown around the ship, in what Dr. Patricia Hayes, former ship surgeon on the USS Nimitz, described as trying to perform surgery while standing in the back of a speeding pickup truck, driving through a construction zone for hours, while the truck never stops bouncing. This is why carriers push through storms that would force other ships to seek shelter. American aircraft carriers are floating pieces of U.S. territory, and mobile air bases that can appear anywhere on Earth within days. During Operation Desert Storm, the USS Nimitz maintained over 30 knots while launching combat missions, despite facing 25-foot seas in the Persian Gulf, because the mission timeline didn't allow for weather delays and those aircraft had to get airborne. The fact that no American aircraft carrier has ever been lost to weather isn't luck. It's a result of skill, engineering, and an unwavering commitment to the mission, regardless of the challenges that arise. Most people will never feel the deck drop 30 feet beneath their boots, or hear metal groan under waves that could swallow buildings. These sailors live with it, and they keep going back, because someone has to. There are no parades for surviving storms, no medals for keeping reactors stable when the ocean tries to tear the ship apart, just crews making it through, deployment after deployment, turning what should be impossible into another day's work. American carriers stay afloat through every storm, not because of luck, but because of people who understand what's at stake and refuse to let failure be an option.